Hi all, and welcome to another edition of Next Level Refs. Tonight, I'm here with Greenie, and we're going to run through a session that we've aptly titled Inside the Mind of an Elite Referee. When Greenie and I were chatting about this section, we were talking about or reflecting on how beneficial it was as fourth officials coming through the ranks and being able to listen on comms to some of the guys at the top of their game. And we wanted to try and do something a little bit similar here. And we've chosen just two clips that have been in the A-League Women's and A-League Men's in the past few weeks to run through and pretend like we're the referee and give you an insight into what we would be looking at, what we'd be talking about, what we might be saying with our team. And hopefully you can get a better bit of benefit from that as we roll through. Because I know, Greenie, you certainly did a couple of fourthies before getting an opportunity in the middle on the A-League.
Yeah, it's a good point, Beathy. I think we all did a number of fourthies coming through the ranks at various levels. So yeah, as you said, I certainly learnt plenty in relation to what to look out for on the field, what to say, how to communicate from those that came before us. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this session. I think it'll be good value.
Yeah, nice, nice. And it doesn't have to be just at the A-League level as well. We certainly came through the ranks doing fourth officials at all levels. So regardless of the level that you're at,
Absolutely.
hopefully you'll get something out of this session. So the way that we're chatting about it and thought that we'd run through tonight is that we've got these two clips that we'll talk through. We'll roll through it once in its entirety, and then once as we kind of stop, start, and talk about things. And then the final one we'll roll through and commentate as if we were out on the pitch. So without further ado, I will get the first clip up and ready to share. All right, hopefully that's up and running. Now, this clip has come from an A-League women's game that was a few weeks ago, and it starts fairly innocuously, but we'll roll through and watch the whole thing from start to finish. We can see a bit of a pass there.
Terrible pass.
Yep, not a great one. Probably one that keeper wants to get challenging for too. So we've got a replay of it from another angle as well. Not
Probably
sure about
leave
that
that
goal celebration.
celebration. Yeah, I might leave that alone.
Okay, so we've got an interesting clip there because it's not the typical clip that we would expect to see for a goal. We've got it starting around halfway, and you can see the ref's in a pretty good spot for what should just be a normal pass to a teammate. We can see here that initial pass, and we talk about expecting the unexpected in football. This is pretty unexpected to see. Well, almost looks like she's got a pitching wedge out there, trying to pass it back to the goalkeeper. And it's gone straight through an opponent who is away on goal. So if I was talking this clip through with my team as I was the referee, the first thing I would be doing is calling for help from my team because as the referee, I would be caught and quite a fair distance from play. So I would be communicating with my team, potentially words along the line of help, help, I'm caught, and then immediately going for angle, trying to get an angle as opposed to trying to get proximity. And we spoke about that in the positioning and movement clip or session, sorry, around angle first. Next, I would be discussing that we have a potential dogso. So I would be saying dogso if she gets her, and also looking at, because that ball's in the air, for a potential handball offence. So I've called help, help, I'm caught, going for angle, and then dogso if she gets her. She does get past that goalkeeper, and I'd be saying another challenge, focus, focus. So I've got another challenge that's potentially inside outside. So I'd be expecting some help from my assistant referee. And then I'll be saying again, we've got dog so if she gets her, because we could have this as dog so challenging or dog so not challenging. Really focusing here, again, trying to get angle, again, using my team for a bit of help, and then watching this as it goes through for a goal. So I'd be talking, if I was in the middle, quite a bit through this clip that only goes for a few seconds. So I'd be talking like to myself, I'd be talking to my assistant referee, and certainly talking to my fourth official who has that really good wide angle. So ball through, help, help, I'm caught, going for angle, dog so if she gets her. Another dog so challenge inside outside. and then we've got that goal. The other thing that's worth talking about as well, if we scroll it back just a smidge, is that we've also got potential hands in the lead up. So it might be something that I would be flagging there. I might not, because it's a really tricky one to see, but maybe one of the other team members might be able to flag that for consideration as well, even if it's just possible hands. Greenie, anything that you'd be talking in addition to that clip? I know there's a bit to talk through there.
Yeah, there's a little bit in that one, and yeah, look, I think it's really important, and you touched on it, is and I was very similar in that you talk through the decision almost as it's happening. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about it'll be a dog, so if she gets her, I think that's really important, particularly from that team perspective, because
Mm.
as you alluded to, it gives your assistant referees and your fourth official, it helps them to understand what you're thinking as the
Mm-hmm.
referee at the time and what to look out for, rather than just waiting for something to happen and then trying to adjudicate on that as a team together. So
Mm.
it's proactive refereeing, and it's anticipating what may or may not come, to
Mm.
give you the best then opportunity to get that decision right at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about well, certainly at the elite end, that kind of cognitive bandwidth. You've got a lot to deal with, and if it's one less decision that we need to make, so really we've already made a decision on dog show if she gets her, and then we're only talking about if it's a foul or not. So it's one less decision or a decision that's already been made. So when we start looking at this challenge, we only have to work out if there's a foul or not, and then we've already got the red card ready to roll. Um, to wrap up this clip, then I might just play it through and I'll pretend to be the ref. I'll run through exactly what I'd be talking about and then we'll jump into the next one. All right. So from the very start, so I'll be saying slight press. Help, help. I'm caught. Angle, angle. Dog show if she gets her. Clear. Dog show if she gets her again. Inside, outside. Still dog show. And goal. All clear from my side. And then I'd be expecting uh, communication back from my assistant referee or fourth official along the same line. All clear for me. Goal. Goal, goal, goal. Yep. Anything extra from you, Greenie, before we jump into the next one?
Yeah, no, no, really good, mate. And I think that's and it's important to be clear with your comms too. I think is it's, as I said, yeah, really important. Your
Mm,
team's on the same page. I like the way you did that. I'm similar in the way I did it, and it just leaves your assistants in no doubt what you're thinking, and then
mm,
what they need to be focused on. So yeah, good
mm.
outcome.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. So a nice clip to start us off.
Nice
Let's jump
easy one.
into nice easy one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go into the next one. There's a bit happening in this next one.
All right, we'll play this one again through its entirety to start with, and then we'll break it down as we did with the first one. So we got a little bit of a counter attack happening from the Wanderers. Ball's played out wide, played back into the middle. Potential incident there, and the ball ends up in the back of the net. Referee's in a good position, moving well, and yeah, ball's in the back of the net. So all right, let's step this one through nice and slowly. So if we have a look where play starts, we're in that defending half. So the Wanderers taking possession of the ball. You can see a lot of those grey players in that forward half. So they've committed a lot of players forward. So they're prime to be counted by the Wanderers here. So the first incident we're going to look at is some potential holding there on the Wanderers player. So we need to be aware of that. And we'd be saying to our fourth official to keep an eye on that as play develops, because we're happy for play to continue at this point. Referee's in a good position, makes a little adjustment. Ball's then played out wide. So now assistant referee on the far side would be saying, okay, let's be careful now for any challenge, potentially inside outside, as in with the previous one. Ball's played across to the middle. So now we want to refocus back in on that on the center of the park around that penalty area. And we've got another potential incident here. A challenge from the defender, might be a foul, might not be a foul. Doesn't look great at this stage. Ball comes back off the bar, so ball's still in play. We've just got to wait. So we'd be saying wait, just that split second, and ball's in the back of the net. All right. So, um, as we said, so plays come out wide. As the referee, we're now focusing in on that middle section. This foul or potential foul, we need to focus on. So it looks like it could be a foul, but the referee's done really well. They've just waited that split second just to see what happens. And the best outcome you could hope for, ball's in the back of the net. What do you think, Beathy?
Yeah, mate, I agree. And there's plenty happening in this one. And I like the way that you've spoken through that. And I mean, we had a fairly similar style anyway. So I love the first thing you're talking about is that we've got this potential holding offence. And we know from experience and just from watching and being involved in the game that holding offences can lead to significantly more. So I love that you've kind of delegated that responsibility onto your 40 or your assistant referee there, and they can keep watching that because that could lead to retaliation. And you've got like important priorities in the middle of the park and also scanning ahead to see where that ball's going. I
And
know.
just on that point too, Beatty, I think yeah,
Mm,
and that's really important. And I think at this stage now where you've stopped it, from an assistant referee point of view or a fourth official point of view, now that they've let go of each other, and that potential incident has now cleared, I think it's also important that the fourth official can say, okay, we're all good, we're all
mm,
clear. They've
yep,
let go of each other, play on, whatever the communication might be, so that the referee now knows, okay, well, we don't have to,
yep.
we can kind of disregard that situation at the moment, and we can
Mm.
refocus back on that counter attack.
Love that. And I love also when my assistant referees used to close the loop. So if I say potential holding, whoever it is,
Mm,
AR1, keep watching that for me. And then they communicate back to me, yep, I've got those two players. And then, as you said, give it 5 seconds. You're all clear on the left. They've separated.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
my own style, just because we've got like our own way of whistling. When that ball comes out to the right, I would normally say, like, when that pass has initially been made, I would say, okay, you're on the ball. I'd be saying to that assistant referee on the far side, you're on the ball, I'm in the middle. Just as that transitions, just so I can know that the assistant referee is looking at that player and I'm then scanning into the middle. So my comms around that is simply you're on the ball, I'm in the middle. And then after I've kind of scanned, I'd come back and say, right, I'm back on the ball, just so everyone knows where I'm looking. And then I also might hand off a little bit of that responsibility to that player on the left, to my 40 or assistant referee. I'd say, whoever it is, 40, assistant referee, can you watch that near post for me or that far post for me, wherever the ball's going? So they know that they've got to have their attention fully focused on the ball when it comes back in as well. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's a really good point, mate. And I think it's also important when you've delegated that to your assistant referee, that they can then have a look and recognize whether that defender is pressing really hard on that
Mm,
attacker, or
yep.
whether I think in this case they've kind of just they're trying to hold up the play, they're trying to slow it down a little bit.
Mm,
They're not going to run in and try and make a challenge at that point. So
mm,
that potential of a foul happening is probably a little bit less than if they were
for sure.
pressing, super hard over that side of the pitch.
Agree, mate. Agree. All right. Well, to round us out, then, do you want to commentate? And we use that term deliberately because essentially you are commentating as the match is unfolding in front of you from the very start of this clip.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, it's a good point because that's exactly what you're doing is you're commentating on the play as it unfolds
Mm.
from a refereeing perspective, to try and help you out. So yeah, let's have a go.
All right. Here we go.
All right, we've got to play. Watch that holding for me there. All right, we're all clear. All right, you watch the ball. You've got the ball there for me now. I'm in the center. Potential penalty, holding, and we've got a goal. All clear for me.
Awesome. Love
And
that, mate.
then we'll check in with the assistant referee. Hopefully, get the all clears, and we're good. And these days, we have to wait for the VAR, obviously, as well.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Awesome. Well, that's another really good clip and probably a bit more complex than the first one to talk through. And two pretty worthwhile clips for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, look, I think that's a good session. It gives a good insight into, I guess, how we would have done it. As you said, everyone's style is a little bit different, so you you have to tailor it to, what you're comfortable with and what suits you the best. But again, it all starts with that, as we touched on in our earlier sessions, that communication with your team, before
Mm.
the game and at halftime, just to make sure that you're clear on those priority areas. So, really good session. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you next time around, and keep an eye on the socials for some more content over the next coming weeks.
Awesome. See you all.
Thanks.